So in this video, I'm going to be reading from my blog post summarizing the third chapter of Victor Reppert's C.S. Lewis's Dangerous Idea. Victor Reppert has argued that C.S. Lewis's argument was not refuted by G.E.M. Anscombe, even if it could benefit for some revision. In this chapter, he explains why Lewis did not abandon his argument, or put another, why this argument stands up to Anscombe's criticisms. The variant of the argument Reppert defends is aimed against naturalism, which he says is the view that the natural world is all there is, and that there are no supernatural beings, page 46. More specifically, naturalism is any worldview that posits a causally closed basic level of analysis, which says that all other levels have the characteristics they have in virtue of those the basic level has. A paradigm case would be materialism, or physicalism, page 47. In this worldview, the most basic level of descriptions is physics. So even what we call rational inference must ultimately be explained in terms employed by physics, page 48. Victor Reppert notes that such a worldview reduces, or as I would say, explains away, purpose in terms of efficient causation, such as efficient or evolutionary history. This is to say that and I'll read my footnote, I guess, in the order I put in the text. It has vanished. Weird. Oh, here it is. Reppert writes, one can say that the purpose of the heart is to pump blood through the human body. What that must mean is that a conglomeration of particles that pumps blood through the body has the structure it has because having the structure is essential for the ability of the organism to survive. Page 49. Anyway, continuing the blog post. That is to say, naturalisms are united in alleging that, at the most basic level, purposes must be explained in terms of the non-purposive. Page 49, 51, and 53. Theism, on the other hand, maintains that reason is a fundamental, that is to say, irreducible feature of reality. That means, among other things, that our power of reason is not dependent on the laws of physics any more than the laws of logic are. We can reason and come to a conclusion not because the laws of physics mandate that the physical particles in the brain move to such and such places, but because of the content of our thoughts and our grasp of logical laws. Page 50. Reppert is presenting his argument against materialistic naturalism, though he says that any form of naturalism that shares with it the commitment that purpose is ultimately reducible to, or again, eliminable in favor of, the non-purposive is just as apt to target materialism. Are just as apt a target as materialism, page 51. Importantly, as he gives the argument, its target is only to refute naturalism. He adds, only subsequently does the argument attempt to show that theism best accounts for this explanatory dualism of irreducible purpose among non-purposive activities. Given basic material commitments, the explanatory basic level of reality is just a matter governed by the laws describable by physics. One can either go eliminativist, reductionist, or supervenientist. Mental states don't exist, they do, but are reducible to physical states in the brain, or they exist but emerge or supervene from brain states, respectively, pages 51 and 52. For the purpose of this argument, they are all equivalent. The physical is the most basic, causally closed level, and it is inherently non-purposive. Mental states, if they are omitted, vary only if the physical varies. Hence, the physical does all the work. 52 and 53. Pages 52 and 53. The aim of his argument is to show that we ought not believe in naturalism, because to do so would be self-defeating. Here is his gloss of C.S. Lewis's argument from reason, page 55. 1. No belief is justified if it can be fully explained as a result of the irrational causes. 2. If materialism is true, then all beliefs can be explained as a result of irrational causes. 3. Therefore, if materialism is true, then no belief is justified. 4. If materialism is true, then the belief materialism is true is not justified. 5. Therefore, materialism should be rejected. Reppert reports that one of Anscombe's contentions was that Lewis conflated all non-rational causes with irrational causes. And insofar as supervenient materialism is not converted to the view that all beliefs can be explained as a result of irrational causes, it seems that Lewis's argument is rather weak. However, this objection is rebutted by noting that the ability to form justified true beliefs requires positively a rational cause, not just the absence of irrational ones. Page 56. Victor Reppert reports that Anscombe's attack attacks the argument as if it were a skeptical threat argument that proceeds by asking the question of whether all our inferences could be invalid. And a skeptical threat argument, just think of like Brand in the Vat, or how do I know I'm not dreaming, and so forth. Thinking this, she attempts to refute it in good Wittgensteinian fashion by arguing that in order to form the concept of validity, or the concept of rational inference, we must be acquainted with instances of valid or rational inferences, and invalid or irrational inferences. Hence, we can't doubt we engage in valid thinking or rational inferences. Since this is so, we can't sensibly ask whether all instances of reasoning could be invalid. Therefore, Lewis's argument, which requires us to entertain that possibility, can't get off the ground, pages 58 and 59. However, Lewis is not arguing that we ought to reject naturalism, because naturalism can't answer the question, how do we know we never engage in rational inference, in a skeptical threat kind of way. In that sense, Lewis's own position would be in the same boat, page 59. Rather, he is taking for granted that rational inferences occur and arguing that materialism can't explain this fact, page 60. Hence, Anscombe's objection fails. Anscombe's main criticism, however, centers on the claim that Lewis's argument fails to distinguish between various types of full explanations. And by full, she means able to satisfy the curiosity of an inquirer. Given this, there can be different kinds of full explanations relative to whatever the inquirer wants to know, page 60. She has four sorts of explanations in mind, page 61. 1. Naturalistic causal explanations, typically subsuming the event in question under some physical law. 2. Logical explanations, showing the logical relationship between the premises and the conclusion. 3. Psychological explanations, explaining why a person believes as he or she does. 4. Personal history explanations, explaining how, in the course of someone's personal history, they came to hold a particular belief. Lewis's argument erroneously claims that if a type 1 explanation is given, then no further explanation in terms of type 2 to 4 can be, and says Anscombe, page 61. Importantly, Anscombe claims that reason's explanations, so types 2 through 4, are not causal explanations, so they can't conflict with type 1 explanations, which are causal. As long as someone can state a rational explanation for why they believe this or that proposition, then we're in the clear as far as affirming rational inference, even if the causal side of the story is entirely naturalistic or physics-driven, page 62. But this claim that reason's explanations are not causal, though crucial to her objection, doesn't hold water, page 62. If I get food poisoning because I ate something rotten, the sense of because is that of cause and effect. If I tell you Sean must be sick because he's not come in for work, or rather if you tell someone else that, because I'm Sean, the sense of because is that of ground and consequent. It seems that to form a justified true belief that I am sick, that is to engage in rational inference, one must be aware of the ground-consequent relationship. That is to see how the propositions Sean is sick and he has not come in for work relate to each other. And that explaining or causing me to believe, oh, I'm sick. Or rather, you causing you to believe that I am sick. If this is not so, asks Lewis, how could such a trifle, the lack of logical grounds, if this is not true, it means that is causally, that understanding the propositions and seeing how they relate to each other as grounds and consequent is not relevant or causally relevant to my believing as I do. Lewis asks, how could such trifles, a lack of logical grounds, prevent the belief's occurrence, and how could the existence of grounds promote it? Pages 63 and 64. Merely that such a ground-consequent relationship holds between those propositions doesn't cut it. And I have a second footnote, but I'll read that at the end, actually. Beliefs must cause each other not simply by being, but by being seen to be, by their being perceived as grounds justifying the subsequent belief, page 64. Because of this, the idea of being convinced by something seems to imply that reasons are playing a causal role, page 65. Anscombe is not done yet, however. Even if beliefs can act as causes of other beliefs, that doesn't mean they cannot be explained materialistically. Even though there appears to be a conflict between saying that I believe P because I see the grounds for it, and I believe P because a certain physical cause is in my brain, she argues that there is no such conflict, page 65. To give a full explanation of something is to fully answer an inquiry as to why such and such is the case. Therefore, there can be as many full explanations of a thing as there are distinct questions that can be asked about it. none of which are necessarily in competition with each other, page 66. Reppert believes that this does not salvage Anscombe's objection. First, how can we explain the exact same aspect of something in different ways, each purporting to be a fundamental explanation? It is one thing to say that the reason some pop can is on a bookshelf is because I put it there the other day, and also that the reason it's on the bookshelf is because it has not been knocked over since I put it there. These explanations describe different aspects of why it is now on the bookshelf. But if we are asking only why I put it there, we are looking for the reasons that I had with the understanding that they are causally relevant. So it is no good to say that the matter of my brain behaving by the laws of physics ended up making me put the can there. In these cases, two incompatible explanations are given for the same aspect of what we are asking to have explained, pages 66 and 67. Importantly, reasons just don't seem to be the kind of things that operate according to the laws of physics. Second, he says, explanatory exclusion seems to be built into the very idea of naturalism. This fact apparently goes unnoticed by Anscombe because of her Wittgensteinian commitments. Wittgensteinian being an anti-realist philosophy which engages in language games. So while we can talk about the same event, even the same aspect of an event, in different ways by playing different language games, explaining something in terms of physics, explaining in terms of witchcraft and so forth, that doesn't help us to see whether they're true. Well, of course, the Wittgensteinian isn't, or indeed, it isn't even even sure that they can both be true. Of course, the Wittgensteinian isn't as such concerned with what is true of the world. However, the materialist is. Page 67. Materialism intends to reduce all purposive activities to non-purposive activity, which I think ends up eliminating it. In doing so, it is making a claim about how reality is, one which excludes us from saying that I believe or act for reasons. Reasons aren't part of the laws of physics. So materialism can't permit these to be causally relevant as to why I believe as I do. Given this, Lewis' argument from reason is vindicated, page 68. Vindicated partially, in any event. Reppert concludes that Lewis's argument benefits from consideration of Anscombe's criticisms. The idea of what Lewis calls an act of knowing determined by what it knows, which, just a little foreshadowing, he'll explain as a mental state causing another mental state precisely in virtue of its content, or at least it's relevant to what he says Lewis means by that, needs development. His argument is strengthened by recognizing it not as a skeptical threat argument, but as a best explanations argument in favor of non-naturalistic worldviews. Lewis is right in claiming that reason's explanations are causally relevant in a way that materialism is at a loss to explain, because naturalistic causes just seem to be different than reason's explanations, and materialism only permits the former, page 70. All in all, I think Reppert is right and has adequately set the stage for his formulation of the argument from reason. The second footnote I said, my gloss of Reppert and kind of ramble. Given what Reppert says, it seems that Anscombe is alleging that even though we might be able to explain causally how I believe some argument and its conclusion, we'll call that A and P, in physical terms, that doesn't preclude us from being able to explain the logical structure of A and P, or describe the role the belief plays in my psychological life. Our notes say that I first read A and P in C.S. Lewis's Miracles, and so forth. If I'm right, it seems that she's saying that Lewis is arguing that since I didn't come to hold the belief in what he considers the right way, that is because of rational causes, then the belief must be false. Of course, this would be to commit the genic fallacy. How I come to believe something doesn't in any way make it true or false. Which is fine as it goes, but if I'm right about what Anscombe's saying, and keep in mind that I'm at one remove from her, I haven't read her directly except for the brief quotations Reppert provides, she misses the point of the argument from reason. The question is not so much whether the beliefs formed by irrational causes are true or false, but whether I am justified in holding them. Lewis says no, and I'm inclined to agree. Anscombe has done nothing to address this. Given the admittedly brief quote Reppert gives from Anscombe on pages 62 and 63, I tentatively think that I understand her correctly. She writes, my own internalist view is that if I can adduce reasons sufficient for the conclusion Q, then my belief that Q is rational. The causal history of the mental states of being aware of Q, and the justifying ground strikes me as quite irrelevant. Whether those mental states are caused by other mental states, are caused by physical states, are just pop into existence and caused, the grounds still justify the claim. The reasons might justify my belief, But given that they have no role in the production of my believing, Q, they don't warrant me to believe. Oh, yeah, I'm on my own comments right now. They don't warrant me to believe it. The claim can be rational, but that doesn't mean that my belief in it is. Even if I can state true propositions that justify my belief and say, these justify my belief, if they play no role in my believing as I do, my believing is not rational, and so I should not believe in whatever I do. So, there you go.